Comrades, it is an honor and a privilege of a lifetime to introduce to you the Ambassador of Cuba to the United States of America, Ambassador Lianys Torres. Ambassador Torres is a graduate of Havana's Higher Institute of International Relations, which was founded by, no big deal, Fidel Castro. She has been a diplomat since 1994, and her previous positions include the third secretary of the Cuban Embassy in Denmark, the first secretary at the Cuban Embassy in Malaysia, as well as minister counselor and senior specialist of the Director General of the U.S. Division at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. From 2015 to 2017, she served as a member of the Cuban delegation involved in reestablishing diplomatic relations between the US and Cuba. And from 2017 to 2020, she served as ambassador to Vietnam. As ambassador to Vietnam, Torres was instrumental in securing Vietnamese aid to Cuba to help fight COVID-19. Comrades of the District of Columbia of the Democratic Socialists of America, please give a warm clap emoji for the keynote speaker of our 2021 convention, Ambassador Lianys Torres of Cuba.
Thank you, Sheena. Thank you for the welcoming remarks. Hello, everyone. I would like to start by thanking you for the invitation to be talking here today. It is an honor for me to be doing so for this amazing, energetic group of people with so many dreams and the will to actually change some of the wrong things of our today's world. I would like also to appreciate the invitation to participate in last week's teaching about Cuba. It is always, we said that it is always very rewarding for a country like ours to know we have friends in the same nation whose government tried to suffocate us economically. And precisely from that teach-in, many of you already know a little about the complex and ruthless blockade the US government has imposed over Cuba for more than 60 years. An economic, financial, and commercial blockade that impacts directly on our people and is designed to create desperation and social unrest through hunger and scarcity. For example, only during the last administration, the US government imposed more than 243 measures to intensify the blockades against Cuba, and 60 of them surgically imposed during the COVID-19 pandemic that had already affected the world economy and ours as well. But on top of it, this administration has done, the current administration has done nothing to change that. In fact, they have imposed new measures to fulfill the wishful thinking of overthrowing the Cuban government. A government, ours, that less than 3 years ago wrapped up a process of constitutional reform in which nearly 90% of the Cuban voters ratified its trust in its leadership and its socialist system by approving the new constitution. And which has been, if we could ask, which has been the result of that strengthened sanctions? Well, the result has been food and medicine scarcity, power outage, and increased difficulties for getting materials and components to produce vaccines, just to mention a few. In short, the Cuban people is suffering unnecessarily just because a powerful country with a harsh cruelty and total disregard for the human rights of my people decide we should not be developing a successful socialist experience focused on everyone's well-being, and that Cuba should become a surrogate of the US as it used to be. And even though the blockade was formally initiated in 1962, the first economic sanctions started almost from the very beginning of the Cuban Revolution. The Cuban government nationalized the country's private companies to give them to our people. including the American companies that had more than 70% of the Cuban land. But what many people doesn't know is that Cuba settled the issue of compensation with countries like Spain, England, or Switzerland, who also had companies in the island, but not with the US. Our neighbor rejected our compensation scheme and preferred to affiliate us and isolate Cubans instead of trying to work together. They thought that, and they continue thinking we believe that they can break the sturdy will of our people. But fortunately, the policy followed by the US against Cuba has not convinced everyone. Because every year the UN General Assembly, many countries vote against the blockade. This year, for example, 183 countries vote to condemn it. And the US government was almost isolated there. And even inside the US, some people of good faith has managed to express themselves against the blockade. This year, we saw pictures from the 50 continental states of the Union with people opposing it. Some of them were members of DSA we signed, in which you can read "End of the Embargo" or "Hands of Cuba." And that solidarity, that support is very much appreciated by our people. But the same appreciation we felt when some of you presenting this event today managed to create a big banner asking for the end of the medical blockade against Cuba and took it to the embassy, while a bunch of people, most of them sure paid by the $20 million the US Congress allocates every year for regime change program for Cuba, were in front of our mission. And the same appreciation we felt when we read the op-ed published by Danny Glover and Arturo Farril, nothing less than in the Miami Herald, explaining why it is so important to lift the sanction that makes our people suffer. But every one of those sanctions are very important for the Cuban people, or those actions are very important for the Cuban people, because they help to shed light into the darkness of a criminal policy masked by the news and social media campaigns. Our leader, Fidel Castro, used to say that for the American people to support an unjust cause, it was necessary to lie to them about that cause. And that is exactly what happens with Cuba. It is only with lies that the government can justify the blockade, and that is also why your support is so meaningful for the fight of a people decided to build a better country and a better world. Cuba is a country that, although being blockaded, has been able to send more than 40 medical brigades to fight COVID around the world. And we have been able to create 100% Cuban vaccines against COVID and vaccinated almost 90% of the total population. I mean, fully vaccinated. A country that has graduated thousands of young people from poor countries from Africa and Latin America, but also some of them from low-income communities in the US without charging a cent, $1 for that. Or a country that whose doctors has performed millions of surgical interventions to restore the vision to people in the third world who cannot afford an eye surgery. Yes, we are not a perfect country. We are not a perfect country, but we think our good actions and our desire to do good to everyone inside and outside our country, and more important, our problems. And our socialism is based in peace. We are a peaceful country and we are peaceful people. It's based in the respect and the solidarity among the countries. And we are sure that with the help of people like you, we will overcome our difficulties, and we will work harder to make of this a better world for the generations to come. So I want to thank you for the solidarity, for your permanent solidarity, and for inviting me today.